Very good morning to all of you. Dear venerable monks, particularly most venerable Gangodawila Chandima, who is the keynote speaker yesterday, and most venerable on the soul of the PO2, and other venerable monks, nuns, and participants and downloads. First of all, I would like to thank to YBAN for inviting me to write a commentary, thereby I was able to become a part of this conference as a panelist. So today I'm going to be talking to you about a documentary heritage, a type of heritage that you witnessed yesterday. Since yesterday, they were mostly on-site kind of heritage preservations, and also the treks that they have gone through. So my presentation is all about documentary heritage, whereby I allude that to the Pāli Canon that is based in Sri Lanka. So in 2019, there was a proposal by the ex-president, Mr. Sirisena, that they're going to submit the Sri Lankan Pāli Canon to be listed as one of the UNESCO heritage, global heritage. So I'm looking at the political support and probably the critique, most probably the critique on the proposal in terms of how inclusive is the plan. First, slides are not okay. First, I would like to say something about the MOW. This is called Memory of the World. I would say Memory of the World, UNESCO registered. It is basically a place at UNESCO to list some of the very ancient ducks that should be protected as a human heritage, like Mohammed Sultan said yesterday. So they have a committee, and this is how they're going to do that. I'm not going to go into details about many of these things, but focus on the most important ones. So what they have done already is that they have already done 432 inscriptions at Register as of December 2017, and there are some issues with submission guidelines at the moment, so they are still in the process of probably amending new guidelines. So this is why it was given in 2017, which I retrieved from the UNESCO Memory of the World Archives website. The objectives. So the objective of this particular Memory of the World register is to look at these documentary heritage inscription ducks that should be fully preserved and protected for all, because they are carrying recognition of cultural mores, practicalities, and should be permanently accessible to all without hindrance. This is the purpose of this plan of having MOW at UNESCO. These are the objectives. You could see them. It's pretty easy to understand. To facilitate preservation by the most appropriate techniques of the world's documentary heritage, to assist universal access to documentary heritage, to increase awareness worldwide of the existence and significance of documentary heritage. They all are listed on the website. Okay, so I wanted to show you kind of a sample of one of the documentary heritages. So this is already listed at MOW. Just to give you an idea about how it is like, archival documents of King Chulalongkorn's transformation of Siam, 1868-1910. So this document was submitted in 2009 and was approved, and now it is in the list of MOW. So this document is very important in Thai history because King Chulalongkorn of Great Siam is the one who transformed Siam into modern Thailand, and the document includes successful emancipation of slaves by peaceful and legal means, the abolition of gambling, the establishment of a public school system, and the reforms of the Buddhist Sangha, as well as secular perspectives, promotion of agricultural production, and many. So it looks like that this document is not that old. It was actually a document about the 18th century. What I'm talking about as the proposal, this proposal is about the Pāli canons, very, very ancient document. Another document, there are two documents, I would say, two documents that are already listed at MOW for Sri Lanka. But they were actually submitted not by Sri Lanka itself. Probably it's kind of a joint program, like Netherlands, India, Indonesia, South Africa, Sri Lanka. One of them is about archives of the Dutch East India Company, which is called by VOC, based in Netherlands. So they had operations in Sri Lanka. If I can remind you something, in the 17th century in Sri Lanka, if you are a historian, you know that Sri Lankan kings were sent women from the southern India because, and at the same time, the VOC company also helped the kings in Sri Lanka to bring higher ordination from Thailand. So it's like providing brides and monks from outside Sri Lanka by the VOC company. Not many people talk about it. So that was about Dutch East India Company, and there's one document already listed, approved by the district. And the other document is about the tsunami, the Indian Ocean Tsunami Archives, which has a bearing of Sri Lanka. So these are the only two documentary heritage documents that are already approved, registered at MOW. So, moving to my topic exactly, the Sri Lankan government's official proposal to include the Pāli canon in the UNESCO Memory of the World History. In 2019, the then President of Sri Lanka, Sirisena, is said to have officially proposed to UNESCO to include the Pāli canon in the Memory of the World History. But what happened? It did not go through for some reasons. So I'm going to look into that, why it happened. But it's a very interesting action if they could have submitted in time. There were initial questions that I see. If the Pāli canon, because they talk about the Sri Lankan Pāli canon, is to submit to UNESCO, which Pāli canon should be submitted? Sri Lankan, Thai, or Burmese? Here, my initial thought is that the Sri Lankan Pāli canon that we see now is mixed with a lot of Burmese and Thai manuscripts, with a lot of variants. So we have to separate out what it is. Probably there are missing parts. So we have to see how things go. So if it is the Theravada Pāli canon or the Sri Lankan Pāli canon, that's the primary question. Is the planned inclusion of the Pāli canon sufficiently distant from technical and contemporary issues? Good for a Pāli scholar. Like somebody might say, why don't we look at these stuff? Why can't we just submit it as it is? That is one suggestion. But there is another suggestion that I think also, because there are some of the contemporary issues about the Pāli, some of the Pāli canonical ideas, not the philosophy. So I have to make a disclaimer. Don't think that I'm trying to say that the Pāli canon has issues. This is more about some contemporary issues when you look at some of the teachings, not the philosophical ones, some of the social ones. is there a consensus among the Theravada Sangha, Burma, Myanmar, Thailand, and Sri Lanka, that only the Sri Lankan Pāli Canon will submit as a UNESCO World Heritage. So when it is submitted, is it the Theravada Pāli Canon or is it the Sri Lankan Pāli Canon? Was there a consensus? Should there be a shared Theravada Pāli Canon that represents all Theravada countries? That means the solution to that. So these were initial questions. Well, one of the scholars, Bhante Sujato, who's the on South Central website, has publicly opposed a similar act that is subsequent to this proposal, saying that because Sri Lankan government was trying to bring up a different act called Tibetan Conservation Act, they were primarily focusing on banishing anti-Theravada teaching, specifically came from Sinhala language, but it also was altered for different reasons. It was also a good act if they could have done it, but he opposed to that. The reasons could be common to both proposals. Great. Now, I want to start with the preservation part from the political side in Sri Lanka. So it is said that the textualization of the Pāli Canon, first ever that happened in Sri Lanka, in the first BCE. However, the oral manuscript textualization of the Pāli Canon by the Mahavihara monks would not have been possible if there had not been sufficient political support by King Waitagamani. So that means definitely there was the political support even starting from the ancient times. You could say King Waitagamani was the first person who sponsored the event. At the same time, other kings who came subsequently, like King Bhante, the destruction of Vaitulya texts. Vaitulya means, I would say, anti-Mahavihara Theravada texts that were contrary to the Pāli Canon. They were discarded by the support of King Bhante and also King Gotama, AD 2015, AD 2054. So this was another milestone in preserving, giving the political support to the Pāli Canon in the ancient time of Sri Lanka. And also in the 19th century of Sri Lanka, it's worth mentioning the political support from late Prime Minister Gangodawila Chandima in 1956. This was actually ruling by that time, during the time, and also from the Jayawardena, because they were able to sponsor the printing of the Pāli Canon with the support of other monks, with the help of other monks. So, Waitagamani, Buddhist, Gotama, and Gangodawila Chandima, and Jayawardena, all were instrumental, in giving the political support. There are a lot of other kings and people, but I did not bring up them here because of time, and then just to give you kind of some highlights on it. So, coming back to the President Maithripala's proposal in 2019, the former President of Sri Lanka, Maithripala Sirisena, holds a distinct place in the history of political support for the Pāli Canon. There was no this kind of discussion in Sri Lanka that we can submit this to UNESCO. In 2019, Mr. Sirisena sought to have the Sri Lankan Pāli Canon added to the memory of the consideration. So he announced on January 5th, 2019, at Aluvihare temple, which is supposed to be the place of the textualization, that I would do this. And in the next slide, you see that he's giving the probably kind of a document, which might not be the official document, to the UNESCO UN resident colony in Sri Lanka, Colombo, Hannah Singer, this idea probably in a certain format. Okay, critical observations. The purpose was not served by, about the proposal. The purpose was not served by local and international promotion of the proposal. That's one. Technical and conceptual issues before the submission. Okay, so the purpose was not served by local and international promotion of the proposal. Now, I quote two symposiums, London Symposium and Ottawa. In London Symposium, there were great scholars who were invited, like Rupert Canon from Bristol, June Harris from Berlin. They are very great Pāli scholars. What happened was they were invited just to talk about that this is a good idea. And they did not get any information of how to supplement this. What are the ways that it should be done in a proper way with the guidelines? They simply talk about the importance. In Ottawa Symposium, which I was also a keynote speaker, the same thing happened. It's publicly funded, I would say, from the embassies. I don't think there was a way how this was going to happen, was discussed in both symposiums. So the promotion was not enough in the proper way. Technical and conceptual issues before the submission. Purity of technicality in the form of repetitions and cohesion, and consistency of some documents. Some, not everything. So because of the time, I might sort of make it very concise. And also, if you look at the technical and conceptual issues before the submission, I have to say that the real proposal was not open to public, but I could get information from the UNESCO office in Sri Lanka. Right? So that is how I'm looking at it. Issues surfacing within the Pāli canonical, some Pāli canonical teachings for contemporary work. Official consensus of a shared Pāli canon across the nations. Could be the issues with that. And repetitions. Now, there are different ideas about the repetitions in the Pāli canon. It is said that repetitions are necessary because Theravada Pāli canon was created to give an idea for people to attain Nibbana. So repetitions are necessary in the intellectual transformation. But as a text, you could find some issues looking at a lot of repetitions, right? Now, Mark Allen, a very great scholar at Sydney University, who has done a lot of research about Pāli canon, he says in the Udumparika Sigrada Suttas in the Gangodawila, that is 30 verbatim repetitions, 86.8 repetitions of one or both. There are many repetitions he identifies, especially 4 repetitions types. So he says lot of repetitions. But a scholar like Getting understands that repetitions are needed to understand the noble path. It's sometimes when the same thing is repeated a couple times, okay, this is what I need to understand. It helps. But as a text, there are some issues too. So I think that if we're going to submit, if somebody, the government is going to submit this proposal in due time in the future, it would be nice that they could have repetition side technical issues, including the variants. Now, if you look at the methods at the end here, you could see a lot of variants because they have been captured by different foreign manuscripts too, Burmese, Thai manuscripts, and the Sri Lankan manuscripts. So people don't know what to read sometimes, right? Now, if you see this, if you see Dittha, Vaiva, Dittha, you see the variants. Aditya, not Aditya. Eva, Yeja. They are not like very substantial technical errors. But how we going to submit with all the variants? Should we just include all the variants? Or should we just go by the Sri Lankan way? Should we go by the Burmese Thai way? So there is something to think about for community subject at the time. Consistency. Now, consistency, the topic of consistency about the Pāli canon has to be different for some teachings about what are the contemporary ideas about some of the teachings, like especially about the women. Now, this is a very lengthy discussion about, scholarly discussions, because some scholars believe that there are a lot of misogynistic teachings, like anti-women teachings, existing. I personally think that they were not Buddhist own thoughts, because they were added because of the dissensions, those teachings. A person like the Buddha is always welcoming everybody, regardless of genders. So probably say the women was a symbol of the distraction for the meditation. So they over-exaggerated about it. So there were teachings like, it is not even good to talk to them. Because, like there are a couple of sutras. And if you go to Metta Sutra, it talks about that we have to spread loving kindness, metta to everybody, right? It is our issue to think about those influences, but I think the committee could have looked at all these aspects because we don't want to create chaotic situation about the text. Official consensus of a shared canon. I think it is better that the committee could have talked to other Pāli scholars, Theravada Sangha across the Theravada nations. So then there is one common about trans Theravada canon that is going to be listed at UNESCO. So in the middle of 2021, the next act was trying to come up, that is the Tibetan Conservation Act. It was also really, again, lots of criticism because it was not properly garnered at the right objective. It was actually simply come out with some people, they were misinterpreting the Pāli canon using the Sinhalese language sometimes. But what happened was that it was also ended in the middle of a lot of criticisms. They were trying to argue each other with their own Pāli knowledge. For example, in the second act, it was not going to UNESCO. It was going to be a national thing inside Sri Lanka. So, but the reasons why it was halted were common with the UNESCO proposal too. The proposed Tibetan conservation legislation intended to delegate authority to a board chosen by the Ministry of Buddhist. Anyone interpreting the Tipitaka contrary to the board's interpretations will be prosecuted and imprisoned. Further, repeat offenders may face a 7-year sentence and a fine of rupees 200,000. Now, this was really criticized by many, but some people were trying to discuss this in a way that why we going to, prosecute some people in the same way, because Buddha has never thought about these things. So the proponents considered the Tibetan Conservation Act, the second one, that is the local one, which is supposed to be, is an urgent requirement to conserve the Pāli canon. They also believed that governmental support was required to carry the essence of the, no doubt, there should be definitely a governmental support. According to their interpretation, in order to carry the Pāli canon forward, preservation, not only the wheel of Dhamma Chakra is necessary, but also the wheel of authority, Ana Chakra, is required. And there are even thoughts that were going on at that time. Pāli canon as a UNESCO World Heritage proposal, the same thing I'm going to attack the similarities. As a single Pāli canon and other versions of the Pāli canon, such as Burmese and Thai, cannot the versions be the same, or they cannot be portrayed as a Sri Lankan Pāli canon, just because this is kind of orthodox idea that we have in Sri Lanka. But they don't know that the present Pāli canon in Sri Lanka has lots of associations with Thai, Burmese manuscripts that were preserved. And also, there is a unanimous Mahavihara tradition to which the present Pāli canon can be regarded as useful. Mahavihara tradition was approaching near extinctions at different times, but was managed to keep what you call the preservation at different points. But there were some holes. But those people think it was very unbroken. So this is what I could get. Professor Sirimali Fernando, Secretary General of the UNESCO Sri Lankan National Culture, filled in on the proposal states in my email exchanges, despite the passages of 3 years. In contrast to the public notice that the Sri Lankan government submitted a proposal to UNESCO in Sri Lanka, she stated that the UNESCO Memory of World Register standards for applying to the memory of the World Register were frozen at the time of the proposal submission in the selection guideline. So the proposal was not therefore formally, officially, not submitted to UNESCO. It was halted, or something happened to it. At this point, what's happening is that rather than quickly modifying the proposal to the new UNESCO guidelines, the proposal was treated and organized as local heritage, like a national heritage. The appointed committee has recently prepared a nomination after completing an island-wide survey. It does not go to that international consideration level, was not submitted for the preservation. However, the committee has decided not to continue with the nomination process. There are some different criticisms that are coming from the Sangha too, even from local scholars and Sangha too. Maybe some other people too. This indicates that the proposal has received numerous comments and has primarily stalled at the stage of presenting UNESCO with new selection guidelines. I think criticism are very important. Like at the end of our presentation, we should have a Q&A. That is more important than sometimes a presentation because you are engaging. Others are commenting on that. So I think we should definitely give time for local people to give their thoughts. Conclusion. So, in conclusion, the Sri Lankan government did not submit the proposal, as I said earlier, because there were issues with the updated guideline. They could not conform the proposal into the new guidelines. I think the guidelines are also still being prepared, but they were not conforming to them at that time. But desideratum is a formal investigation to correct the issues from both technical and doctrinal aspects of the Pāli. Now, adding this some doctrinal points, not the canonical philosophical ideas. They are pretty good, they are pretty accurate. Some. You don't want to actually create some chaos among people. Therefore, as there are still some discussions, although members of the Tibetan committee would not like to identify them, it is advisable to fix technical and doctrinal issues before resubmitting one day to the UNESCO register. Also, as the Tibetan Conservation Act suffered similar issues, the second local one, it is clear that such rigorous policing is not needed. But submitting a Pāli canon, which is inclusive and technically free from flaws, is very necessary. I definitely think that Pāli scholars in Sri Lanka and other places should definitely involve in the discussion and then to submit it after. It is also evident that the motive of the Tibetan Conservation Act was to banish the single misinterpretations of the Pāli canon. Second one, local one. Although it is necessary to find a mechanism to avoid such going too far to police the users of the Pāli canon can be detrimental and could be even un-Buddhist, because we have to always think about what is being Buddhist. Therefore, both the committees of the Pāli canon proposal as a UNESCO World Heritage and the Tibetan Conservation Act can work in uncontroversial directions. It really includes really good Pāli scholars and those who can really think about the importance of UNESCO proposal and local proposal. They could perhaps implement the following suggestions. Request that all Theravada organizations in Sri Lanka provide their interpretations of the Pāli canon. Doesn't mean that they're going to include all that. But then those organizations think that we are heard by this committee. Okay? Analyze the many manuscripts of the Pāli canon from other Theravada countries in addition to the Sri Lankan Pāli manuscripts. Because we have to definitely look into other Pāli manuscripts. Because between the time of, I guess, a lot of kings in Sri Lanka, especially at the time of Parakambahu in that early time, and even in the last couple of centuries, there were a lot of monks from across Theravada countries engaged together. They prepared a lot of manuscripts. So probably some of the original Sri Lankan versions could be in those countries too. So we have to definitely look at other manuscripts, Pāli manuscripts, to see how they could further continue this idea to make it inclusive. Acquire the necessary accord over the Pāli canon across various sanghas in Theravada countries. You can't approach all the sanghas, but you can approach the most important groups, what they have to say about it. Not thinking that we're going to incorporate all that, but thinking how the committee can actually work out with the preservation part to submit as a proposal. Correct technical and doctrinal interpretations in the context of contemporary society without jeopardizing their original purpose. Now, Buddhism has been mattering to many in terms of contemporary life, modern life. So we have to address them, right? The way how they have been interpreted, some of the words, some of the concepts, gender-based things, LGBTQ issues. There are a lot of things to address. Rather leaving the Pāli Canon to be as it is and saying you have to accept it, right? So we don't supposed to jeopardize the original essence, like those teachings, fundamental teachings, but the teachings that are more focused on society need to be looked at, revisited again to make it more friendly with the society across the world. So before the proposal. Finally, what is clear is that although the political support vested in the Parliament proposal, I think I had an informal discussion with Venerable Sobhit yesterday. These politicians actually, for whatever the purpose, they started doing. It's a good thing. For the both acts, the precise direction of the outcome of the proposals was lacking. They may be not able to do the direction. It may be up to the people who are involved in these committees. Don't think I'm trying to manage the committees now. But there are certain things to think about. Although both committees included the subject experts, I think so. I don't know about their names. This is a hidden document. And some head samplers in Sri Lanka. They have not been able to specify a clear outcome so as to keep the balance between the ideas of the present Theravada groups in the country and to keep the originality of the views in the Pāli Canon. I saw some of the YouTube videos of formal discussions about the two proposals. There were a lot of criticism back and forth. I probably think if the committees could address them in a peaceful way, they could have come to a sort of peaceful consensus, peaceful accord, so that the next step would be to submit rather than just to get stuck with them. In summary, former presidents Maithripala Sirisena and Mahinda Rajapaksa, Maithripala Sirisena was the president who initiated the proposal to UNESCO, and Mr. Rajapaksa was the one who was trying to implement the second local Tibetan Conservation Act, could bring the two proposals to the next stages as a contribution of the Sri Lankan government to the disaster. They were really good proposals. They could pass officially. Also, the expert groups and other sangha's could not specify the debatable issues about the two proposals. Therefore, if the expert groups of the two committees, the two proposals could address the counter arguments, both proposals could have been already validated in a way. Right? Pāli Canon has been for the Tibetan proposal, that is the main proposal over here in my discussion, and the Tibetan Conservation Act. So, my final thoughts are, although this idea, the proposal to submit the Sri Lankan Pāli Canon is such a very timely, interesting proposal, it did not pass through for different reasons. You could have two arguments. One is, let's submit it at how it is already existing. That is one argument. It's also okay because I don't think some of the documents were really cross-checked before submission. Or because this is going to be there for long, for many, many years, centuries, if they could look into the second argument, looking at those issues, contemporary issues, technical issues, this could be a good preservation to this at UNESCO. So I think while you talk about the preservation of the Buddhist heritages on physical sites, I think it's very important to look at even the documented heritages across the Buddhist countries so that we can keep those documents without losing them for the next generation. Thank you very much.